I got involved with this group of guys on the darknet. I kind of realized what kind of dangerous situations I was putting myself in.
When did the sexual assaults happen?
The most significant one happened on my 26th birthday, and it was in Ybor City. I went out with my best friends for my birthday, and I met these guys in Ybor City. They were like, "Oh, it's your birthday, come back and party with us."
What trauma do you think you were unpacking?
Definitely rejection and fear of abandonment. So my earliest memory of me as a child was my mom screaming, "I wish you were never born."
So where do you fall in love with substances? Like what's the first one that you're like, okay, I need this to be okay? All right, this is very exciting because we have somebody that I don't know well with a crazy fucking story. Her name is Jamie Tall. The first question before we talk about anything is, how tall are you?
5'2"3/4.
So that's pretty misleading of a name, Jamie Tall.
It is.
Is that a real name?
Actually, so my full last name is Toludo, but nobody could ever say that, so I just cut it.
Well, I was always intrigued. I always imagined you to be a very, very tall woman, and now I'm glad to know that you're not that tall. That's great.
I do have like kind of a funny story behind that, actually. So I am a massage therapist in my day job, and I'm actually a medical massage therapist. And so one of the things that I specialize in is TMJ, like TMJ. So I do like intraoral TMJ. So I made a YouTube video about how to do it. And it actually blew up because people were searching for tall girl oral. Yeah. And when they got to it, it was not what they were expecting.
Were there a lot of disappointed comments?
I don't know that there were many comments, but there was a lot of views.
I think TMJ is that's another topic that doesn't get discussed enough. TMJ, it's that clicky thing, right?
Yes.
And you can solve that problem?
I can fix it. Yes.
So Dopey Nation, if you have TMJ and you're looking for a tall girl to help you orally, check out Jamie Tall on Facebook. Welcome to the show, Jamie. I've known you kind of, like on the next one, like abreast of the situation. Like I was in the recovery group chat, but I was overwhelmed. So I got out of it. I felt scared what's happening now? What's that sound?
That was my air conditioner.
Jamie has the loudest room in the history of recording.
You're so sensitive.
Well, so would you say that your primary recovery world is Facebook at the moment?
Facebook and YouTube.
Do you do meetings?
I do some meetings. I more facilitate different groups and things like that. I'm pretty connected in our recovery community here. And so I facilitate a lot of trauma-informed groups. So. But
you don't do 12-step.
I actually am a 12-step baby. So I grew up in the 12 steps. I did NA and then I did AA, which was my primary foundation in my recovery. And then I kind of started branching out into all recovery meetings, double trouble, and then the trauma-informed is something that I'm very passionate about.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn about it. I want to hear what happened to you first, because I think there's going to be a lot of information, and I'm excited to hear some of it. Where did you grow up?
So I am originally from Boston, Massachusetts.
No way.
Yes.
Okay.
Massachusetts, New Hampshire, but my family moved around a lot. I went to 12 different schools by the time I got to ninth grade. I'd already gone to 12 different schools. So moved a lot, and that was really hard. But I did get to go to my high school for like all 4 years. So that was awesome. That was where I met my first real friends, which was in New Hampshire.
What town in New Hampshire?
Manchester.
Nice. Manchester.
Mm-hmm.
You've lost the act. Did you ever have an
I
accent?
used to, yes.
You did?
Yeah.
Did you work on getting rid of it?
No, it just happened naturally.
Those are good accents over there. So, when's the first time you got high?
Um, Probably would have been in high school, probably 10th grade. Just,
What was the situation?
it was just your, pot, just your regular kind of like high school stuff. I was into, a little bit of psychedelics and a little bit of marijuana. I wasn't really like a huge drinker, but that was definitely when I found that substances could be a solution to my problem.
Why'd you guys move around so much?
So my father actually was affiliated with the mob. And so there would be situations where we would have to move very quickly across, you know, it was like big moves, like Boston to Georgia, Georgia to New Hampshire, New Hampshire to Florida, you know.
That's crazy. How affiliated was he? Is he still alive?
No, he passed away in 2006.
Was it like The Departed up there?
I've never seen that movie, but
Oh, The Departed is a crazy mob movie about Boston with what's his face? Jack Nicholson as like the kingpin, and Leonardo DiCaprio and It's a good movie. You should check it out.
I will have to check it out.
Definitely check it out. But so what's it like growing up? How criminal was your dad? What was your mom's involvement? What was it like as a kid?
So, I mean, my parents had me when they were really young. So, my family actually owned a bakery in East Boston, and they rented out the top to the mob where the mob did their gambling. So, and my father, being young, impressionable teenager, just kind of, that was where he fell into his friend group. And it was just, me seeing a lot of things that I shouldn't have seen, and it was pretty stereotypical, like, oh, dad put another guy in the trunk, we have to move. Or, like he shattered this kid's elbow one time. That was really embarrassing because I had to go to school with him. And it was a lot. Just seeing a lot of things that a young person shouldn't see.
Like violence.
Right.
Yeah, that must have been very scary. Did he put you didn't see did you never saw him put a dead body in the trunk, just live bodies in the trunk? Or did you see him put a dead body in the trunk?
I just saw it on the news.
Oh my, is this true? So what and you live with your dad?
Mm-hmm.
And your parents were together?
Yes.
And so how does that inform your childhood?
It taught me about my first addiction, which was called escape. And I
Mm,
used that very well. So escaping through books, through Nintendo, through every time we would move, I would make up a new identity. I don't know if you know anything about the Sicilian culture, but it's very much like what happens in the family stays in the family. Nobody talks about the elephant in the room. We don't go back over things. We just keep it moving. We're not like nobody really has feelings. It's like if you're crying, they'll give you something to cry about. My mom used to chase me around with a wooden spoon. So it was very authentic Sicilian culture.
I'm gonna give you something to cry about. You don't have that Sicilian sensibility. I live on Long Island, New York, which is all that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm Jewish. I'm very sensitive. I came from a family that goes over the fucking same thing over and over and over until we're sick to death of it. Um, that's the world I grew up in. But I live in Eastern Long Island, which is all very much you keep your fucking mouth shut. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's this world. And you live in Georgia now,
Yes.
and you don't seem. I mean, you changed your name to Tall. What was the name? Telemo? What was the Sicilian name?
Toledo.
Toledo, right?
Mm-hmm.
And was that a little bit on purpose to keep that in the past?
Um, I mean, I guess so. It was more like an identity thing, just kind of like shifting. identity. I mean, not so much for that. I mean, it was, when you're in the world and you have crazy things, and then, you just don't want people to find you sometimes.
Definitely, but it's definitely also steeped in that Sicilian thing, I think. Was there was in them, obviously in the mob there's violence, there's gambling, there's prostitution, there's so how many of those things are involved with your dad?
I mean, definitely violence. There was a little bit of, I mean, a lot of parties, but it was mostly like, we were all like family, you know what I mean? You did hear, some conversations maybe about people, you know, getting in trouble. I remember one time, my dad had made a call because, my cousin, her boyfriend threw a brick through her vehicle, through the roof, the windshield of her vehicle. And so I don't know what happened to that guy, but, so it was kind of like, I mean, for me, that was like normal, right? Because that's what I grew up in, and it kind of like, it really shaped like my ideas of like what was normal and not normal, growing up. So,
Totally. When does the shift happen that you start to fall in love with? I mean, escapism is like the addict and alcoholic's greatest pleasure. When does it become substance driven?
I would say it was probably in high school. I was still like a really good student, but, getting, getting the things that like I learned from my family. Okay. Like, this is what healthy relationships look like, which is like toxic, codependent. My father, he drank a lot. I mean, my whole family drank a lot. It's like the men always drank rum and coke and the women drank red wine. That was very normal. Everybody still went to work, right? So it seemed like very normal, even though, people would be getting like so wasted and getting in arguments and all these things. So like to me, like, I didn't really think that there was like too much wrong with me like partying and me being in like toxic codependent relationships early on because, growing up in that, it seemed normal to me. So, but always definitely, just like anybody else who has struggled with addiction, we always have this sense of feeling like we don't belong, not feeling comfortable in our own skin. And particularly, there was one party that I went to and I was really nervous. I think I was probably like a junior in high school, and um, they started passing around some, just high school substances, pot, and those like big, like blue boons wine cooler things. I don't know if you remember those or not, but, and, I started, partaking in whatever they were passing around, and all of a sudden something clicked in my brain and I wasn't like nervous anymore. And I was funny and I was charming and people liked me and I fit in. And I thought, well, this is what I've been looking for my whole entire life. And that's when it became my solution, and psychedelics on the weekends. I can remember, watching Austin Powers with my friends, like tripping. And like this one part, like I remember I laughed for like 3 days when Austin Powers had like the guy's head in the toilet and he was screaming like, "Who does number two work for?" And I just thought that that was like the most hilarious thing I ever heard in my life. And it was fun. Right. It was just no big deal. I was still doing well in school. I was like working at McDonald's on the weekends. So it seemed like it was a pretty good deal for me, if it would have stayed that way. But, as we know, it doesn't generally stay at that level.
So where do you fall in love with substances? Like what's the first one that you're like, okay, I need this to be okay, or I need this to be like, yeah, to be okay?
I would say probably cocaine is where it kind of started, and for me, honestly, cocaine suppressed my emotions. It suppressed my trauma. It also helped with weight loss, right? So like, as a girl, especially from like a hefty Italian family, it was always hard for me with like weight. And I also, would use like food as a means of like escape and, when I was young and things like that. So
I still do. What kind of trauma, like when, because trauma is like, I don't know, someone just said to me that it's the most used word of this year or the past few years, I think. And I'm interested in it because it's an interesting subject matter in general. So like what what trauma do you think you were unpacking?
definitely rejection, and fear of abandonment. So my earliest memory of me as a child was my mom screaming, "I wish you were never born." Then my second was like my mom and dad got in a really bad fight, and my dad had like hit my mom, and she was crying, and I remember sitting on her lap saying like, "Did daddy hit you again?" So it was just like not knowing what was going to happen next, right? Am I going to walk into a house where, my dad's going to be like watching scary movies with me and we're going to be eating celery and cream cheese? Or am I going to come home to,
Madness.
right?
I get it. So yeah, I mean that is very very scary. And it's the worst for a kid. You know what I mean? Like it's funny to have kids. How many kids do you have?
I have two,
How old is the younger one?
14.
Right, 14 and 20. My kids are 14 and 6. And it's so weird that we were kids, right?
Yeah.
It's so weird that we were that age and that our whole life went the way it did. Um so where do you get cocaine for the first time?
I think that was just through like a boyfriend. Um, I mean, it was around a lot, growing up in Manchester. Cocaine, and then I waitress too. But see, I was still functional through all this, right? I was going to college. I was working two waitressing jobs and like living in an apartment, supporting myself, with of course, in a toxic codependent relationship. And I mean, it still all was very normal up until, probably until I had my son. And probably about a year after I had my son is when things kind of went in a different direction.
What happened?
So, um, me and
I like the
his,
way you just I like the way you just fast forwarded it.
yeah.
You're like let's get to this thing. All right, I support you with that.
Thank you. Um, so my kid's dad went to jail, and I was living in Florida at the time, and I had to like keep my apartment so that when he got out of jail, because he was just going for like 4 months or something, he sold some weed to an undercover. It was stupid. But back then that was like a felony, and so
Yeah.
I had to keep like my house, so that when he got home from probation, that he would have like a place to live. I had my son, and I was like gonna have to like, work like a whole bunch to pay for everything
Hold
myself.
up, hold up though. Hold up.
Hmm.
Were you pregnant when he went to jail, or how old was your son when he went to jail?
No, he was 9 months.
Your son was 9 months when
Hmm.
when when his dad got busted. So that
Hmm.
must have been incredibly terrifying.
Well, he actually got busted when I was pregnant. But it took until, he was like 9 months for the court to go through and all that kind of stuff. So
And were you getting high in that period?
with my son, no,
Yeah.
no, I actually, was sober during my, first pregnancy and did very well. I was like stay at home mom and like the breastfeeding and the whole thing, and So at that point, I think I wasn't, I felt like I wasn't a all in addict, right? Because I could like stop and things like that. Um, but then when his dad went to jail, I ended up kind of like letting my son stay with my mom and dad. And I worked like every day at Applebee's trying to like pay the rent. And I still like wasn't doing a good enough job. And so I had a friend who worked at Applebee's and she's like, well, you can come work with me at this other place and you'll make way more money. And I said, okay. And so that started my first time ever working at a strip club. And it was called Cleopatra's. And it was in Palmetto, Florida. And that kind of opened me up to like a whole different world.
I have a lot of questions. The
Mm-hmm.
first question is, your friend is like, Applebee's sucks. Let's go make some money. But when does she let you know what it is?
I mean, I knew she worked there. And I mean, I didn't really have like confidence to like think that I could actually like make money like doing that, having a lot of like self-worth, self-esteem issues. So it was very interesting because I was like, young, 25, 26, and I remember going and like making a lot of money. And
Well, how did you even do it? Like, I mean, I know that I'm not an attractive woman, but I can't imagine showing up and doing it. Like, do you remember the first day? Like, how did you do it the first day?
okay, so first of all, like the shoes are just ridiculous. I don't know. Like you could not pay me to wear heels today. Like you just can't. So I don't know how I did it and didn't fall over myself, honestly. But it was a very like elegant place. So we wore like these evening gowns and then, tape on your like breasts and thong panties and it was interesting because the club, I think it was probably owned by Italian people, because it was like pretty corrupt in there. And so, um, you know, it was like, you just get the guys really drunk, distract them while they sign their bar tab, and do dances and make your money.
What do you remember about day one?
Day one, I remember holding on to the pole for dear life so I wouldn't fall. I remember being really, really nervous to take my clothes off, but I was probably drunk, I'm sure.
Right.
And, honestly, I remember having like this thought like, man, if these people want to like pay me just to dance for them, maybe I am worth something. Maybe I do have some value. And that
Right.
kind of started like a cycle of me determining like my worth and my value on how much money that I made.
Right. And I bet you it was very exciting. Like, you have this challenge, like you have this obstacle. You probably got drunk. I'm going to assume you got drunk. Did you get high too?
I was probably doing some cocaine here and there, but it was actually like a lot of work. It was like pretty physical.
I can't even imagine, but I'm more into like the idea of like, you know, the high it gets you. You know what I mean? To like succeed, to go into a situation like that, not like knowing what to expect, and to come out with a bunch of fucking money and manipulate a room like that totally in your favor, and you leave and you're like, I'm a fucking star. I just fucking did this.
Yeah, I mean, it did give me, some like pride and ego, but I mean, it's really not like all it's cracked up to be. It's actually like a pretty lonely time, you know what I'm saying? Because first of all, like, who wants to date a stripper? Okay. Like,
I'm sure lots of people, I'm sure lots of people listening do, and I'm sure the guys who go to strip clubs definitely do.
you're gonna take her home to mom. You know what I'm saying?
I can't, and I know that I haven't been to, like, I haven't been to a lot of strip clubs. I recently talked to a friend of mine, and I mean, I haven't been to a strip club in a long time, but I know that when I went to strip clubs, if the women that I were attracted to in the strip club weren't falling in love with me, I was like, what the fuck is this? This sucks. You know what I mean? Like if I wasn't like that's how sick I am. Like I couldn't just go and appreciate it. I need like to be loved because I've got mental problems. But my point is, that there's a shit ton of men who go to strip clubs who are happy to date strippers, and a shit ton of men who don't go to strip clubs that might be happy to date strippers. I mean, isn't that true? No?
Not really.
Okay. We'll
Mm-mm.
we'll put that aside for now. And then like just because you get high off of something doesn't mean, or just because something gives you a good feeling, it's like, you know what I mean? Like you could get a good feeling from stripping just like you can get a good feeling from coke. It's not going to necessarily be sustainable. So how does your life change once you start doing it, and how are you making a shit ton of money? Also, what about lap dances? What is it like to do it? Is it horrible?
So this first place that I worked at was kind of horrible because it was like a full contact club. So you kind of left out feeling like a little bit dirty, which made you have to drink a little bit more alcohol. But they had a lot of security, so you didn't have to worry about like, anything like happening or whatever. The second place I worked at had a 6-inch rule. And so you had to stay 6 inches apart from the person. And that was, we kind of had like a family there. So that I liked that place better.
But you could probably make more money with the
Yes.
lap dance.
Right. But I did make a little bit more money at the other place. Yeah.
I never had a lap dance. I feel like I might have missed the boat with that. As somebody who gave them, was it like, were there good ones? And if this is making you uncomfortable, please tell me.
Oh no, I'm open.
Were there good ones? Were they all horrible? Like, what's the range of performing lap dances?
I mean, I guess it would depend on like who the customer was. If it was
Okay.
like a regular, like a regular person, you know what I mean? That came in, or if it was like somebody who was trying to grope you a lot, then that would be like less of a good one. So,
All right. What's the worst lap dance you ever gave?
oh man, the worst lap dance I ever gave.
The gropey guys, like they'd
Yeah,
be drunk.
gropey, drunk, just trying to like grab on your boobs, trying to,
That's
put
horrible.
their hands on you in your crotch. Yeah. It's yeah, that
And I'm
was
sure their intention is, why isn't this lap dancer falling in love with me when I'm so charming and,
uh,
and, and gropey?
I'm not sure what their intention was, but yeah, it was definitely against the rules. That's for sure.
Right. And so talk about like what happened to you. Like Applebee's is out. Was your first kid a boy or a girl?
Oh boy.
And he's mostly with your parents.
Right.
So tell us what happened to your life.
So, ironically enough, I was still trying to like complete some kind of degree. At this point, I think I was on to like my third college, and I went to school in Tampa for fashion design and started going to classes, but turned out that I sucked at drawing and couldn't sew. So just went back into the strip club world, and then once you're at a place for a little while, you start to get these like regulars, and so I had like 7 guys who were like regulars, and of course they're like your boyfriends, right? When they come in, they're like your boyfriends, and maybe you might see them and go out to dinner with them, outside the strip club. And so that kind of what opened the door to the next thing for me, was escorting. And so I would, I kind of had like a base of like these like 7 guys. And, one night a week or twice a month, I would go out with them, and they would pay, for all my bills and stuff.
So is that in like sugar daddying? Is that like multiple sugar daddying? Is that prostitution? Is it sex work? How do you describe it? What's the
I
line?
mean, you can call it sugar daddying, but
It's all the same thing.
essentially it's sex work. And then I had stopped it for a little while because I met somebody that I really liked. And so I kind of put it all aside and tried to get into a long-term relationship, but I just, wasn't ready at that point to give up the partying and give up the lifestyle and be like settled down. So it didn't work out. So I ended up kind of like getting back into it. But I went back to school actually, and I went to school to be a massage therapist. And I the reason that I went to school for massage therapy was because I had a friend who did it, and he made really good money and he made his own schedule. And I was like, man, I could actually like do this and be able to support my son and not have to like, mess with any of this other stuff. And so I started going to school, and turned out I was actually like really good at it. I was really good at massage therapy. I got requested by the owner of the school, by my teachers, and I found like a passion that like I really wanted to help people. So, but I was still, it was like I was pulling because I was still on like the partying side and the cocaine side. And then I had a couple like traumatic things happen in like a row. And I kind of like fell back into this really bad pattern of using.
Oh,
So,
and I want to know how does the escorting really start, and then do you manage it yourself? Like it seems like a
so
lot because you were just a waitress with a kid.
yeah.
I guess also like, but because you, let me just say this, like I don't know you, but you have a great way of putting out, and I'm not judging you in the slightest. This has been very enjoyable for me so far, and I don't want you to get angry at me. But you have a way of talking that's very sweet and like, I don't know, like lyrical. Like I can't even describe it. But then I remember your dad was in the mafia. You're fucking stripping and doing, and your boyfriend gets busted and goes to jail, and you tell it in a very sweet way. How do you compartment? And listen, we're addicts, you know what I mean? We do a lot of shit.
Mhm.
Like I'm the same way. I couch shit in my, you know what I mean? Like I can present like funny, but meanwhile be super manipulative. So I'm not judging you in the slightest. But like, how, when you get into stripping, like, are there little things from your past kicking up, like, oh, like this is kind of in the crime world, or like where does it connect the dots? Do you know what I mean? There's that, not a, that's not the best phrased question, so I apologize. But like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, did it kick up family shit, like family of origin stuff in that world?
I mean, definitely, knowing how to talk to people. I feel like as people who have been in an addiction, we're pretty good manipulators to begin with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. And I guess maybe it was kind of like glamorous. So maybe looking back, at that, seemed like the easiest way, right? Because we're like, you got to think from like a business, mindset, right? Because that's what, mob is. They're just really smart business people, right? And they make connections. So, I guess maybe like that.
And the thing that pops into my mind is like, just being a addict, it's guaranteed you have a double life. So being a stripper, double life. You know what I mean? Like having your, I mean, like I lost custody of my daughter, and she stayed with her mother and her mother's parents, and I was off, doing. So I can relate to a lot of this stuff. Um, it's just amazing like how compartmentalization works, and like, and that's also where denial can kick in. So like, so when you're getting into this world, like when you cross the line to escorting, what is it in your head, and what's the first, is it like a date? Someone's like, why don't we go out? And you're like, fuck it, let's go out. How does that work?
Pretty much. Yeah. Like, let's go do something. I used to have this guy. He loved to go to Siesta Key and like to the bars right on the beach and stuff like that. And we would just go out there and drink and hang out. And so, yeah, it was basically kind of just like arm candy, companionship, conversation, men who were lonely.
Ultimately, is there sex every time, or is there not sex every time?
Not every time.
Right. So escorting really is escorting. It's not necessarily fucking.
Right. Not at that time.
Okay.
I did move into that, afterwards, but.
And what's your use and alcohol consumption like? And again, like, I think like I don't get to have conversations as many episodes as I've done, which is a lot. I don't think I really had this. I mean, we've skirted around this kind of story, but it's new to me, and I don't want to be offensive, and I'm saying too much, like, because I'm nervous, because I don't want to offend you, but I really want to know what happened. So forgive me if I.
No, I'm an open book.
All right, so when you get into escorting, like, how much are you doing, and what's it like?
Daily cocaine. I believe at that time my drink of choice was Jägermeister. So it was a lot of surfer on acid and Jaeger bombs. And so a lot of alcohol and a lot of cocaine at that time. Maybe a pain pill here and there, but I didn't get into that as yet.
How do you feel yourself changing looking back on that period?
I do remember, like, the closer that I got to graduating massage therapy school, the more I couldn't wait to kind of get out of that life. But I also didn't know how to cope with things. So when I had like things that would happen, like traumatic things that happened, I would just like use more and drink more. You know what I mean? So like I was like trying to get out of it and like trying to do the right thing, but then like something would happen and I would get pulled back into that world.
Would you feel like guilt and shame in that period because you had this plan, and that plan was probably like the sweetest thing? It's like, all I have to do is do this thing, and then I'm helping people, I'm legitimate, I'm making a bunch of money, and I don't have to feel any kind of shame. So like when you're not doing it, how much shame are you in?
I mean, definitely having guilt and shame. Absolutely. Especially growing up. So I grew up, with like a faith background. So, and then did like kind of like get away from that.
So you felt like you were like getting away from God and from like spiritual principles and
absolutely
thing, basically. And you're like, who am I if I'm not that person? Like, did you, and like, what was so then what happens? Because you're telling me it's going to get much worse. So let's get to the worst part before I say how was the shame then.
So, it was really crazy. I had put an ad on Craigslist, and actually one of my teachers from school found my ad on Craigslist. And I was like, oh my goodness. Like, he called me into his office and he was like, pulled it up on the computer and he was like, is this you? And I was like, no. That's
what
not
did
me.
The ad say? What did the ad say? Was there a picture of you?
Yes, there was a picture of me and my phone number, and it was like calling for like I think we called it like a relaxation session or something like that. And I was mortified. Like, I didn't know what to do. You know what I mean? And he's like, that's not you. And I'm just like, no, nope, not me, and then like the phone number on the bottom, and he's like, but this is your phone number. And I'm like, I have no idea, just kind of like denied. And I ended up leaving. And at about 6:30 that night, he called me And I was just like so upset, and I was like crying. I was like, well, I don't know what you want me to do. And he asked me to come back to meet him at the school. And that was when I found out what he wanted. And so he just wanted, you know, in exchange for him not telling on me.
How does he do that? How does he set that up?
I mean, he told me to come back to the school. And so I went back there, and we went in the classroom, and he just started like touching me, and I just like knew what time it was.
So, and I'm assuming he didn't pay. All he did was pay with silence.
Yes. Yeah.
Was he gross?
He was actually like a very successful guy, and he wasn't gross, no.
But there was no conversation. It was like he asked you all these questions, and then it's serious, like Sicilian training. You keep your fucking mouth shut. I don't know what you're talking about. What
Right.
gun? What, you know what I mean? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I didn't do anything. And then he calls you back, and he wants to have sex with you, and he also has you do it in the school.
Mm-hmm.
But was he married or anything?
No.
Okay, well that's good. So that happens, and that ad you had, it wasn't for escorting though.
I mean, it was. You just don't put, I mean, you can't put that kind of stuff on there. And at this point I had, 3 or 4 friends, and we were kind of all doing it. So it was kind of like the norm.
And there was no pimp character?
Mm-mm. No. I had a house. It was like a 9-to-5 business. Like I had a house, I had a roommate, and we just, 1 or 2 of the other girls would come over, and like the guys we'd make the appointments, and then they would leave.
Well, before we get into that though, so when he sees it, because we're kind of moving from escorting, which is like can be a date, it can be company, it can be sex, it can be carousing, whatever, to strictly, or not necessarily strictly, but to sex. So like the ad he saw, was that an escort ad or like a sex work ad?
That was a sex work ad.
So when did you make that move in your head?
I guess it was probably.
I feel like I'm interrogating you.
I guess it was when I kind of like had met some other people who were doing it, and they were kind of like, this is how we do it. And so I just kind of like moved over to that way. It was like a faster, more efficient. Like I didn't have to like sit here and BS and like talk. You know what I mean? Like just like do the deed and like let me get on my way. And the girl that I was living with at the time, she and I would do it like together, and her name was Jamie too. So we advertised it as like the Jamies. So it was like it was catchy.
Was she Jamie Short? No, that would have been great. So it became just super exchange, and like, where is your addiction at this point? And your son is with your folks mostly.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, my addiction, cocaine, alcohol, still the same, just probably at a higher dose because I had, more money to be able to, afford, you know what I mean? I just had like whatever I wanted on hand, you know what I mean? And I had like some pain pills and Xanax, but I mean, I wasn't really like into that. That was kind of like just a once in a while kind of thing. But yeah, it was just almost like normal because it was literally like a 9-to-5. Like they would just literally come up to my house. Like, lunch break was a big deal and just like get them in and get them out. And the other girls, like they would be there, and, maybe they would throw me some money for like using the house or something, you know what I'm saying? And, yeah, that was pretty much it. But you did meet some really weird characters, I will tell you. Definitely.
Weird how? I want to know the weirdest, and I also want to know, like, what's it like? Like, are you in total misery? Is it sometimes fun? Like, what is it like to be in a situation where you're, like most people enjoy sex, and it's like most people don't get to make a living at it. So, what is that situation really like?
For me, like depending on like who the customer was, it could be like cool. And I was like a huge fan of, I mean, I still am a huge fan of sex. I just use it in different ways. But I feel like sex could have probably was very likely an addiction for me as well. And also like the power, kind of like the power of it. You know what I mean? Also being like a victim of sexual assault a couple times, that kind of gave me like a little bit of like a edge on it, kind of like, well, if this is going to happen to me, then I'm going to leave when I want to, and I'm going to leave with a pocket full of money. So kind of like a power differential in that. And
When did the sexual assaults happen?
um there was a couple. The first time, I think I was maybe 20 years old. And the most significant one happened on my 26th birthday, and it was in Ybor City. And I went out with my best friends for my birthday, and I met these guys in Ybor City, and they were like football players or whatever. And they were like, "Oh, it's your birthday. Come back and party with us." And, I was still kind of like innocent at that time, like, and I was very naive and very stupid. And so they were giving me bumps of cocaine, what they said was bumps of cocaine, which actually we found out later was Special K, ketamine. And so they brought me back to this house, and there was like one guy that I thought was like really cute, and so I like went in this room with him, and we were just messing around, and then all of a sudden I heard like the door open, and he was like, "Oh, you have to let my brother in on this." And
Oh,
I got like real freaked out, you know what I mean? And then like I was like messed up because of the whatever they'd given
ketamine, sure.
me.
Or maybe it was
um
Rohypnol. Maybe they roofied you.
the lab test, because I went to the crisis center after that, came up that it was ketamine.
It's so horrible. I'm so sorry that
Hmm.
happened. And it's like, and it's the worst is like you like the guy. It's like
Hmm.
the guy. I mean, it's like so disgusting. Um, so that fucking impacts you for sure. How old were you when that happened?
I think I was 26 when that happened.
So it was in an almost similar era.
Hmm. Yeah, it was like around the time, but before I had like kind of full on escorted.
Right. And do you think that sort of like almost was like, fuck that. I'm doing this on my terms. I'm going to get money from this. And like, I'm not going to be a victim.
I mean, that definitely played a part in it. It definitely made me feel, took my humanity away for sure. And
Right.
because I mean, looking back at it now, when I came into recovery, I was like, man, like I like ruined families. You know what I'm saying? So, I feel like I would have felt like that
Why
before.
do you think you ruined families?
Because, you know, uh, because that's just wrong to like,
You mean being a sex worker,
right.
like
Yes.
offering that. I mean, they say it's the world's oldest profession. I'm sure that you provided a lot of joy to a lot of people who weren't getting it in other places. Like, I mean, like, come on. I mean, maybe you didn't help us. I mean, I'm going to rationalize it here. I don't think you ruined the family. I think the guy who fucking paid you ruined the family.
I mean, yes, but it's still assisting, guilty by association. So,
All right, so let's keep going. Like, so let's unpack a little of shame, trauma, fucking, and where does it take your addiction in that area in that time?
so, I would say probably trauma. Let's see. I remember I got involved with this group of guys on the dark net. So this is where I kind of realized what kind of dangerous situations I was putting myself in at this point. When I met this group of guys, and this is probably like the weirdest thing, but to me, I thought it was cool because they were like these guys. They were very rich men in Tampa, and they like called me goddess and like had me come, and they wanted these like specific things done, where I didn't really have to do much work. So for me, it seemed like, wow, this is like pretty easy, and they're like calling me goddess. So I know you want to know the details of this because this is just weird. It's the weirdest of the weird of the
Why
weird.
would you think? Why would you think?
Because I know. So all right. So this guy.
Hold up. Are you shaming me for wanting to know? Why would I want to know the weird details?
Because it goes into play into the positive things that I'm doing today.
I want to know everything, but that's the nature of my mind. And I want to tell you, I think this is an incredible story. Like I think, and I love the way you tell it, and I'm so happy that we're doing this now. So tell me why were these guys so weird, and tell me what happened.
So, there was a whole group of them on the dark web, and they were actually like, it was kind of like a weird, like occult. So it's like ritual kind of stuff, like satanic, like ritual kind of stuff. But for me, like, like this one guy, like he would have me come in, and he would literally be on a desk on all fours, and he would have these two like whips in his mouth, like one short and one long. And he would want me to like and I would literally like walk in the front door and then like just like start like beating him with it. So for me, like I was like, okay, like this is kind of weird, but whatever. But not completely unheard of, right? A lot of people are into that, yep. Right? So, and then there was like, we would go into like this other room, and he would have me put on this like black, like velvety kind of like cape thing. And then he would just like stand in front of me with like his back to me, and he would want it, with a, strap on, and I would just kind of stand there, and he would like do his thing, and, he would be done or whatever. And he'd be like, oh, don't look, goddess, it's dirty. And I was just like, whoa, this is so weird. But I was just like, whatever, bro, give me my money. Let me get out of here. But to me, you know what I mean? I didn't feel violated, you know what I'm saying, at all. Cause like nobody, you know what I mean? Nothing happened to me. So I thought that, at first I was like, oh, this is cool, right? And he's like, well, there's actually thousands of us on the dark web, and we'd like to have you to be like our goddess.
Like dominatrix, mistress, that kind of thing.
Right.
Like I once talked to this woman who wrote this amazing book called, I think it was called Whipped. I don't know, this writer, she was a dominatrix. And a heroin addict. She became a heroin addict while she was, or maybe, I don't remember what happened first. But that seems like, aesthetically, it's scary, but it seems like a lot less work in a lot of ways. So were you like, this is interesting?
Yes, absolutely. I was like, this is the easiest job I've ever done, and the least like intrusive. And they were just very interesting people, and so,
interesting how?
They were interesting because they were all very successful business owners and you would just never think. You would never, ever think that they had this secret, secret thing that they did, this kind of secret society, secret ritual life. And so, and there were so many of them. I mean, there were so many of them, and it was a very just, it was just interesting to me. I'd never seen anything like it.
Would you see them like physically together, or you saw the community online?
Just online. And they would just call me.
And then you'd see them one at a time, and would they have you, forgive me for saying this, fuck them in the ass with a dildo? Or what would you have to do?
Correct. Same thing. It was a ritual.
To break out the ritual, exactly. They fucking they put the thing in their mouth, the ball in their mouth. What describe the ritual as best as you can. And how drunk and high were you during this stuff?
Not really, because it was like lunchtime. We're talking about 10 o'clock in the morning.
I'm gonna have a tuna salad sandwich and fuck this guy in the ass with a dildo now.
Yeah, this is actually, this is like a legit, this is actually like a cult activity. It's a specific cult.
What's the cult?
The cult is called the Bride of Satan cult.
Wow.
Yeah. And so this is part of their, how they like initiate their brides.
And you were going to be a bride of Satan. Did you become a bride of Satan?
No, I did not.
So I'm going to be quiet now. I'm going to listen.
Okay. So the guys, it kind of started to freak me out because they were like real obsessive. Like they wanted to call me all the time and talk to me. And they would just say like the same things, like, they wanted me to talk like abusively to them and like tell them what like a piece of crap they were and, call me goddess. And it was just like, just kind of disturbing because it was like, it'd be like 7 o'clock at night. And I'm trying to feed my kid dinner. You know what I mean? And it was like, they would call so much. Something in me was like, man, this is dangerous. And so, I feel like I kind of got, rescued pretty shortly from that. After that, actually, my father had passed away from a heart attack at 42. It was his third heart attack. And I clearly had no coping skills and kind of went like off the deep end and started smoking crack at that point. And so he passed away. And then I think it was like 3 weeks until my graduation from massage therapy school. I was so close to the finish line, so close. And
so much is happening at once.
Mm-hmm.
And is your son with you, or is your son with your mom?
With my mom. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And when was the first time you smoked crack?
It was probably maybe about a week after my dad died.
Was it with any of these Satan guys?
Mm-mm. No, it was with just some people that I knew.
Was it with the crew, the Escort crew?
Yeah.
Jamie Short and the rest?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So like so much is happening, right? You found, and how much more money were you making from being in the Bride of Satan's than you were from other things?
I mean, they paid better in the sense that I was only there for 15 minutes or 20 minutes. I was in and out.
And your dad dies and your son is with your mom, and you're doing, like, how were you feeling about the work?
I mean, at this point, like when I got into the crack, it was like a whole new thing. It really just like pulled me right in, and I became very unfocused, making like bad decisions, which led to me actually getting arrested for prostitution, which was the day before my graduation from massage therapy school.
So what happened?
I had gotten a call from a guy who wanted me to come out to Polk County, Florida. And it was, I was high and needed more money for crack. So I wasn't paying attention to the language, right? Because there's very specific language that you use when you work in this industry. Nobody ever says sex for money. Nobody ever says like things like that. So he called me and told me to like come to this hotel. And, so I get to the hotel and I didn't even really think anything of it. There was like a guy outside and There was a lady at the front desk, and I went and, went up to his room. And I remember him opening the door, and he had a hat on, and he had some shorts on and a t-shirt on. And I sat down, and I remember there was a laptop on the desk. The mirror was broken, which I thought was kind of strange. And he just simply like sat down on the bed, and I sat down, and he started asking me some weird questions. Like, so what can you buy on Craigslist? And I was like, I don't know. What do you mean? Because that's not usually how things go, when you go. And then he started saying, well, is it like you can buy cars or something? And I knew like something is not right here. Something's going on. And so I remember trying to get up and leave, and I remember he yelled at me, and it scared me. And so like I sat back down, and he started trying to ask me questions again. And I kind of went and I kind of like grabbed his shorts to kind of yank at them. And he wasn't, taking them off. And so I knew like something was going on, but I was like, either this guy is going to kill me, or like I'm about to go to jail. Yeah, like I'm tripping right now. And so I went to grab my shoes and run out the door. And just as I was running for the door, the double doors from the hotel, the connecting rooms, swung open. And about 25 reporters and police officers came rushing at me.
God. So it was a huge sting.
Yeah, it was a huge
setup.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The hotel was closed. Everybody in it was fake. Like it was all these
just to get you.
And it was a big sting. They only ended up getting like 3 people. It was probably a huge waste of money. But
they were not. Were they affiliated with the Brides of Satan or not affiliated? No. Did the Brides of Satan have jackets, by the way?
No, they
matching jackets. No motorcycle club kind of thing. Brides of Satan. Anyway, sorry. Keep going.
So, yeah, so I ended up getting arrested, and they made an example out of me. I was in jail for my graduation from massage therapy school, and they blasted me on the news like for 3 days straight. Bay News 9, if you know anything about Florida, as soon as you turn the TV on, it goes straight to Bay News 9. So like every 5 minutes, it was like, Jamie Toludo, Riverview, Florida, busted in prostitution sting, blah, blah, blah. And they just blasted me. And it was devastating because I was right there. I was so close. And, so I ended up getting like a 6-month probation. I ended up they couldn't get me for the prostitution because I wouldn't agree to, what they were saying.
All right. So like how, and this is like, I don't know, I really am enjoying this, story, especially considering all the good stuff that you do now. It's like, and I know that you do it to help people. Mm-hmm. And I know that you also do it to feel okay. Like that's why you do this stuff.
Right.
So like you get busted, and what are they like, how long do you have to go away for?
I didn't, because I had never been in trouble before. So I literally got a 6-month probation. They actually only charged me with battery on an undercover. And that was for like pulling on the guy's shorts. And I had this probation officer who, I don't know, he was a really big fan of mine, I guess. And it was really weird. He literally like had my picture like on his like desk, like the mugshot, and like it was really strange. So I just had to call him and talk to him on the phone, and he would, and I just ended up getting off probation. I ended up actually moving. My mom ended up moving to Georgia, and I ended up going with her. toward the end of my
Hold on though.
probation.
So
Mhm.
this cop had your picture on his desk. Was it in a frame, or
It
was it
wasn't
just
a
sitting there?
frame. No, it wasn't a frame.
So he was like in love with you,
It was weird. I don't know. It was very
but he
strange.
never. He overly friendly with you?
I
Nothing
mean,
happened.
he did like to talk to me on the phone a lot, but and
But he never mustered up the courage to ask you to have a cup of coffee or anything.
no,
No, that's. Would you have gone? Maybe.
maybe.
Because that seems very interesting. He was in love with you. But anyway, so you wind up moving to Georgia with your mom,
Hmm.
not sober. Are you like, I'm not doing this again? Like where, like how did
Yeah.
it impact you in terms of like had you stripped again? Had that ever happen again?
No, I never stripped again. I did escort again after that. I mean, it really, I made a geographical change. My mom moved back into this.
What did she know? What did your mom know?
Oh, she knew everything.
So how did you deal? How did she deal with it?
I mean, we just didn't talk about it as usual. We just didn't talk about it. So
Where in Georgia did you guys move to?
we moved to Lawrenceville, Georgia, and it was really strange because actually we moved into a duplex that I actually grew up in. So I actually like spent part of my elementary school years in the same duplex, and then came back into the same duplex. It was so strange. It made me think of like this, like a sign of Jonah. For any of you scripture junkies out there, it was like spit you out from the whale. Here, try it again. And but unfortunately I didn't get any recovery. I simply made a geographical change. So we moved next door to a crack dealer. I got a job at the Applebee's. Within a month I am working at this multicultural bar where they do like the custom dances for $5. I'm dancing on the bar, I'm bartending, and it was just like the same
What's a
thing.
custom dance?
Like the like they're like multicultural. So Colombian, Brazilian, Mexican, just Spanish, whatever.
No Israeli folk dancing.
No.
Um, now, were you a good dancer before you did any of that stuff?
I feel like not really. No.
But you were. I mean, you were obviously probably really good.
I mean, I think I learned some things definitely from the second strip club I worked at. I learned some things for sure.
Now, do you feel like you're a good dancer?
Now I feel like I have zero rhythm, actually.
Okay, so all of that is not a thing. So you wind up working in the I'm sorry, I think that's funny. The multicultural bar where you're doing $5 dances on the bar. Are you smoking crack?
No, but this place was actually, I'm pretty sure, like a front for just cocaine dealing. But so there was a lot of cocaine there. I did end up smoking crack again after, and that was when things kind of got even a little worse. Got in my first house that got raided, got arrested. My first like kind of like time where I
Wait, what
actually
was
had to go
that?
to jail.
What was that? What kind of house?
So I lived in, I lived like probably 10 minutes away from the house. And of course, like the guy, the crack dealer, the dealer, right? Like he was like my like boyfriend, right? Cause like everybody's my boyfriend if you have in your pocket, right? So, we were like dating, and, I would go over there, and there was like a lot of people that lived there, but it was like one of these houses that was like no electricity, no running water, at times. Bunch of people on the couch, you know what I mean? People just like messed up everywhere. And the house ended up getting raided while I was in it. And that was the first time I ever went to jail for a period of time. I went to Gwinnett County Jail for 20 days.
Now, as somebody who's listening to your story and interjecting, here and there, it didn't sound like were running you up till that point
Mm-hmm.
until your dad died. And then how much was the crack running you in that little run?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it got pretty bad. I mean, I tried to, it was like I would try to do the right thing by going back to work and trying to, be like a normal person, but like I never got any recovery or like dealt with any of the trauma or anything like that. So I just kept falling back into like the same things.
Right, you were trying to like get recovery from being like a working stiff at Applebee's or something. Like everything will be okay as long as I'm like a normal person. But
Right.
meanwhile, every time you it sounds like every like when you'd run into somebody with you'd like come on, like they would fall, you'd weaponize your womanly charms, they would fall for you and they would be your new boyfriend with kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, pretty much.
So you get busted, the cop falls in love with you, you move to Georgia. For a second, are you like, I'm fucked up? This is, how old is your son at that point?
Oh gosh. He was, let's see, that's 2008. So he was 5.
Right. And so is there a level of guilt and shame upon moving to Georgia when you get out of jail? Or are you like, fuck, I need to do something differently? Like, what
Oh
do
yeah.
you recall? Okay.
Yeah. When I got out of jail, I mean, even when I got out of jail for the prostitution, like that shook me because that was the first time I'd ever been in a jail cell. And Polk County, Florida is not a jail for nice girls, you know? But Gwinnett County.
Although I'm sure there are plenty of nice girls in Polk County, Florida jail.
Right.
Give them a little bit of love.
Right. Yeah, I remember walking out when I got out of the jail. There was a lady in the back, and she's like, "You don't come back, Hal. You don't come back here now. This isn't for you." I was like, "I know it's not for me. I don't ever want to come back here." Yeah. Gwinnett County was a little bit different because it was like Gwinnett County is a private jail. You can smoke in there. You get a lot of free time. All my friends were in there, you know, all the people from the crack house because we all got busted, you know what I'm saying? So it was all like we were all there together. And I stayed there for, yeah, like I said, 20 days. And then I ended up getting out. I didn't get any charges or anything. But I went back to waitressing and trying to do the right thing, and ended up meeting this girl who had an escort company, started, back at that in, this is in Norcross, Georgia. And I did that for like a year with her, which was, she had like a lot of connections, and she was pretty established in that area. So it was, we were more like, kind of like the party girl escorts, you know, go to like the parties, the football players and the, you know, all this. And I really wasn't like, she didn't use, so she was, you know, kind of like a better influence on me in some ways. And then I ended up, having some other things. Like I was, I met this doctor, and he would give me prescriptions out the back door. And so I would go and I would sleep with him, and he would give me prescriptions, and I would bring her, and I would bring, you know.
What would he give you prescriptions for?
For oxys. And I mean, whatever I wanted, oxys, Adderall, Percocets.
In this whole time, right, from you being a kid to now, like when did you start calling yourself a addict? When did you know you had a fucking problem?
It was probably when I got pregnant with my daughter.
So that's moving forward.
Yeah. Well, it was pretty soon. It was about a year after that. Mm-hmm.
Was it the doctor? Was it the doctor's kid?
No, thank God. Actually, me and my kid's dad got back together, and within 6 weeks, I was pregnant.
Where was he this whole time? Where has he been?
He's been in Florida.
Were you seeing him through this whole period?
No, we were like back and forth, on and off. Not really. Both into our own addiction. At this point, you know, I started just using a little bit of Percocets at this point. So I lay down the crack, I lay down the cocaine, can't handle that. Let me switch. And since I'm getting all of these prescriptions, right, and I'm meeting all of these people, because at this time it was in the era of doctor shopping, right? So like we had this circle crew. We all knew who was going to the doctor when, and I'll give you a ride if you give me 20 pills, you know what I mean? All that kind of thing. And so, I started kind of taking, your Vicodin and your Percocet, like no big deal, right? And then I get pregnant with my daughter, and I was waitressing. I was waitressing at the strip club at this time, just waitressing, in the committed relationship with my kid's dad, and I realized that I couldn't stop using these pills. So like one day, like I didn't have them for like 2 days or something. And I was like, man, there's something wrong with me. Like, I feel like I'm sick. Like my legs hurt and like I feel nauseous and I feel like irritated and I'm sweaty. And like, I'm like, do I have the flu? Like, what is it? What is wrong with me? And, I had this like feeling inside of me, like, man, I need to take a pill. And then it kind of like, started taking Dilaudid, and then I found the love of my life, which were these little blue pills called Roxy 30s. And at 7 months pregnant, I came out to my OBGYN that I had a problem with pain medication. And I told her I was really scared for my daughter. And she told me that it would be okay, that they would put her in the NICU for a week, and that they would just keep her on observation. And I had her April 13th. They took her from me right away. I was not allowed to be in the same room as her. This was before we had, recovery coaches and like in the hospitals and things like that. So it was very, judgmental nurses and the doctors, and they were very angry. My daughter had to stay in the NICU for 6 weeks on phenobarbital and morphine, and they had to detox her off of the pain pills. Yeah, and it was then, I couldn't understand. Like, I was like, why can't I stop? Like, what is wrong with me? Like, why am, like, all I wanted to do was like, me and my kid's dad got back together. Like, I was like, oh, I have a second chance. Like, I can do the right thing this time. But like, I couldn't stop using. So
when you got back together with him, was he like freaked out by the sex work, or was he just like, that's just the thing? And then was it over? Were you done with it at that point?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's a huge shift, but you shift from sex work to opiate addiction.
Yeah.
It was never an easy shift, and it's I think it's very, more than anything, very brave to tell this story, because so many people feel as though they're not, they don't deserve love if they've done something like this, but this is what addicts do, and I think to tell the story is very, very brave, and I really appreciate you telling it so forthright. So they take the baby from you, and it gets me a little bit emotional, which I don't usually get. It's weird. They take the baby from you, and what is your husband? Does the boyfriend get mad because you were strung out on Dilaudid and stuff?
No, I mean, he was doing pain pills too, and he had actually started doing heroin behind my back. But I did like all the things. I actually when I got out of the hospital, I had a C-section. So 4 days, I quit taking pain pills. Like, I totally cold turkey, the worst detox ever, because like I knew DFACS was involved. They took custody from me, thankfully gave them to my mom. But, I was too ashamed to even like go to the hospital to see her. You know what I mean? Like, 'cause I was allowed to go like supervise, but it was like, I would try to go, and it's just it was like the pain, like from the guilt and the shame, like in my chest, like I could not do it. But I ended up getting the defects and everything, taken out.
What is that? What is defect?
Oh, it's Department of Family and Children's Services. Actually, what how it actually got taken out is because they had submitted a test that said that I was positive for all these things, right? And I was like, no, like all I had on there was opiates. Like there's no way like that I came up positive for all these things. So I actually went and subpoenaed my hospital records, my test from the hospital. And I would advocate for every woman to do this. And it came back that I only had opiates in my system. So they had to go in front of the court and they said, oh, well, it must have been a hospital error. Sorry. Here's your custody back after like 3 months or whatever,
Hold on though. So they would have messed up your custody had you tested positive for meth or cocaine or whatever, but just with opiates, like why do they give you the custody?
Because I had a prescription for Percocets.
Nice. Thank God. And that was that doctor. Was that doctor?
No, it wasn't that doctor.
So you're just kicked cold turkey.
Right.
Are you done? Like post C-section, are you done or are you not done?
I mean, I was done for that little while. My kid's dad ended up he was doing heroin behind my back. I had never done heroin before, and he kind of got into it pretty bad. So bad that we couldn't even say that he was around with the defects people, because the defects people would want to test him, you know what I mean? And he couldn't pass because he started. I think he was doing it before, and I just didn't realize because I had my own stuff going on. So we ended up breaking up. He ended up moving back to Massachusetts. And at that point, it's just me at my mom's house with my very angry family, a newborn baby, and my son.
Well, who's in the angry family?
My mom and my brother and my sister. So it was my mom and brother were living there. Yeah, with me and
they were pissed. They resented you.
They were very angry with me. Yeah. Yep.
So what happened?
Well, that started the rotating door to me going through detox and mental institutions and things like that. So try to go to detox, but it was this cycle, right? It was like every time I would get out, I'd be like, okay, I'm cured. Now I can just use like everybody else does. You know what I mean? And I couldn't understand the fact that if you don't take a pill, then you don't have to detox. But like I couldn't, it was like that just couldn't compute in my brain. I couldn't fathom.
I get it. I mean, I think we think that we can figure out the way to get high and then take a couple days and we can figure it out and all that stuff. I can totally relate. Was it just Percocets at that point?
It was Roxy's, mainly Roxy's. And then I started, I had a friend who used a needle. And so I was like, oh, well, like, what's that like, and then it was just, it got pretty bad then, because then I started doing meth. And like meth is like a whole nother monster. Meth is a whole nother monster, a whole nother weird group of people that comes with that. And, so yeah, it was just like in and out of facilities and, institutions, and me trying to do better, but not being able to, but never going to a meeting or, really ever even like talking to anyone else who had been in addiction. Cause I feel like if I could have talked to someone in addiction, like who had, successfully come into recovery, like that would have been game changer for me. But I only knew people that were in addiction or people who just like could put it down. And they were, why can't you just stop? Why don't you just not use, So, yeah. And then, the meth, that's just like a whole crazy world of like weird people. And I ended up getting arrested for the last time, thankfully, and went to Gwinnett County Jail for 20 days. Same as the first time. I'm telling you, this is supernatural. And yeah, ended up going in front of the judge. And I remember him saying to me, okay, you know, I got busted. It was a schedule 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which is just like a little bit of everything. It was like a variety pack on a Tuesday night, you know? And he said to me, we're putting you on a 4-year felony probation. Do you know what that means? And I was like, no. And he said, you cannot get arrested or fail a test for the next 4 years or you're going to go to prison. And I thought to myself, I don't know how to do that. And so I ended up getting out, and within like 3-4 days of having to go meet my probation officer, I'm already getting high again. And thankfully, this girl called me. She had just gotten out of prison, and she said, hey, I'm coming to Athens. I'm going to go to Athens to go to this sober living, and I think you should come. And
how did she know you?
We used to do together, do meth together, and sell together.
Were you shooting the meth, smoking the meth? What were you doing?
Smoking mainly. I had tried shooting it, but the people that I was around were so weird. They freaked me out. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, so it's a very, very weird scene.
Yeah.
And then are you out of all sex stuff at that point? How are you paying for everything?
Yeah. So I had like a boyfriend or whatever, you know, kind of like a, you know, people that like I knew, you know what I mean? And so I was dating this one guy, and he actually like paid for me to get into the sober living. And he was super, super nice. And, you know, bought me like a couple pairs of pants and shirt, you know what I mean? Like so I would have something, because I didn't have anything. And so, yeah, he paid my entry fee to get in. I ended up getting a job, but even with him, I still had that trade mindset. You know what I'm saying? Because it was like, I didn't even like, he was real nice, you know what I'm saying? But I just didn't want to be with him.
Transaction. It was a transactional relationship.
Yes, it was still very transactional. And I remember, you know, walking into the sober living. It was on a kind of a big campus, because I lived like UGA, you know, so it was a house with 13 other women. And I remember walking in, and I remember I had, a room, and I had my own bed, and I had a half a dresser, and I had a closet, and there was like a kitchen with food, and there was a shower and a bathroom. And I was just like, wow, this is amazing, you know? And with
it was hope. It was a chance to start over. It was very,
right.
very simple. You were like, and your kids were with your mom and your brother and your sister,
Mm-hmm.
and you were like, I'm sure you were like, if I don't do it this time, like, what the fuck is going to happen?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, my family was done with me. They didn't want anything to do with me. My mom had already like filed for permanent custody of my kids. And, so yeah, I knew I just like had to do something different. And so I just did what they said, you know, they gave me suggestions, you know, you should get a sponsor and go to meetings and get a home group and work steps, and you need to get a job, and you can't wear that. And, you know, you need to take a shower and wash your hair. And you know what I mean? Like I just listened to whatever they said. And, you know, probably like 30 to 60 days in between probably step like 1 and 2 is when like my obsession got lifted, and I didn't get like triggered every time I went to like a quick trip bathroom, or you know what I mean, like different things. And started speaking out, actually sharing my story at 89 days sober in one of the detoxes that I actually went through. And so that was really amazing to see, like kind of like hope, you know, walking
It's
in.
incredible. I did something similar. I couldn't even believe it.
Mm-hmm.
I could not even believe that I could leave You know what I mean? I
Yes.
could really relate with it. Oh my god. That's incredible. So like tell us more about like that 89 days in, like and are you being open with people about everything you had done up till that point? Are you and where are you with because like your whole shtick now is shame and trauma and how to deal with it. When
Mhm.
did you start dealing with it? Like on the other side.
So it probably took me about 6 months in. I had moved into like a step up house. So it was just like four girls in one house. And I was on the phone with the boyfriend, you know what I mean? Because I needed a ride to work, right? And my roommate, she was a lady of like great faith. And she heard me like on the phone, and she knew I didn't want to be in the relationship. She knew like what the deal was, you know. But I needed a ride to work, and I needed some money to pay my rent, and I needed, you know. And she was like, she said to me like, "Sis, I'll give you a ride. I'll give you a ride to work every day. You don't have to do
Mm.
that." And I was just like mind blown. Like, what? Like, you want to help me? Like, so I don't have to like do this, you know? Cause like at this point I'm sober, right? And like, so now it's like really hard for me to kind of be like even in a transactional friendship, right? With all of this piled on me and me kind of starting to like work these steps and kind of get these top layers off of me. And then I also got into church and got baptized, and that was like right at my step 3. And I was like, you know, giving my, you know, will and my life over to the care of God. And so that was when I really just surrendered. Like I fully surrendered to just my program, to God, to my, you know, my community, my sponsor, and just like fully committed myself to doing this thing the right way. So
It's amazing. I'm very, very happy that you did, right? It's like
mhm.
and then like how long does it take to get back to your family? How long does it take for your family to not hate you? Like what's the healing like?
um so I really want to give some encouragement to anybody who's listening. It actually took 5 years before my
Mm.
mother would really like open up back up to me. It took me 3 times doing amends to her, and 5 years of being consistent and showing up when I said I was going to show up, doing what I said I was going to do. Because, you know, she's the one who had to deal with the disappointment with my children, right? Because like I was the type of mom that was like, yeah, I'll walk you to the bus stop in the morning. I promise I'll be there, and then be gone for a week, you know? And so she was the one who had to like deal with all that stuff. So she was just very, very angry with me. It put a huge strain on our relationship. And so it took 5 years, but eventually, I mean, I'll have nine years next month. So it
I'll
takes,
have 9 years in August.
okay. Yeah. Mine's July 20th.
That's so interesting to me. Like, isn't it? I see a lot of people with 9 years this year. I mean, I
Yeah.
know there's probably a lot of people who get 9 years this year, but like, isn't that interesting though? Like that 9 years ago, you and I were totally fucked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how about your kids? How long did it take to repair those relationships?
So my daughter, she was like pretty young. But with my daughter, you know, the thing is she's always been with my mom. So I started a career, you know, my career here. I actually finally got my massage license at about 14 months in, or 18 months in or something. Finally had gotten my massage license and things like that. And my mom lived about an hour away, but I got to see my kids. She would let me stay over there, you know, every other weekend or whatever. So, but still, she was mom. You know what I'm saying? And like, I kind of came alongside. And at first, that was like really hard for me. But then I just kind of came into like acceptance with, you know, it was what it was. And I was just happy to have the time that I could have and to be there whenever she would allow me, in whatever capacity she would allow me to be there. So, My son actually in January just moved back. He just moved in with me. So January, I actually
Yeah,
got to be
he's watching YouTube very loudly downstairs right now.
yeah, I actually got to be like mom, like for the first time, like, you know what I mean? Since he was like 3 or something, right? Like, so this was like, man, at 19 years old, you know what I'm saying? That's like a long time to wait. So I just want to give that as encouragement too, you know, like, cause I was always so scared, like they're going to grow up and they're not going to need me. Like, no, they still will need you. So,
No, I love
um,
that. I had a similar thing with my kids, and it was whatever different time period, but you it's amazing what can be repaired. But the only
mhm.
thing that's required is you never stop doing the work. Because you stop, you know what I mean? Like it's just that's what's required, and you help so many people. You do a podcast called the Recovery Inspired Hope, and you are a certified peer something or other.
Specialist for addictive disease.
I can't read my own handwriting. But hold on for one sec. And like it's obvious like you live this thing, and that's how it works, you know? And like does anyone in your life, I mean, does your older son, and I don't know him, and I this might be an annoying question, does he ever flip it on you and be like, "Mom, you were so and so and so," especially when he's 19 years old and probably not doing everything perfectly?
No, my son is like, he's like super forgiving and like loving. Now my daughter, there's definitely a little bit of a barrier there. Like she doesn't ever say anything, you know what I mean? But like, she's 14. She's been with my mom the whole time. It's kind of harder for me to push in, you know, to that with that relationship. But I just, you know, continue to do what I can do on my end. Like I'll continue to invite her, you know, but she's 14. Like, do you want to come stay at my house or you want to go with your friends to skate country? Of course, you know what I'm saying? Of course she doesn't want to hang out with mom. So that's hard, you know, but, I'm sure that at some point that will be, you know, resolved in one way or another. So,
Right, but that's this it's the same work, and it will be the same outcome, that you'll be
mhm.
able to be there for her, and that you'll be able to be there for you. You know, it's like that's the deal, and it's like your story is incredibly inspiring, and I'm so glad you gave us all this time. And I have a weird oh yeah, let's say thank you. I'm gonna say thank you for coming on, Jamie. I appreciate it. Um, you just say thank you or something. You say you're welcome. Say
You're
something.
welcome. And well, also, can I shout out a place real quick?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So there is one place that I'm associated with that I absolutely love. It's called the Divas Who Win Freedom Center, and we are an organization who helps women who are coming out of prostitution and human trafficking. And we have an amazing program there, support and meetings, and something called trauma informed massage, which I train the massage students to do there. And so women can come there and get free massage and learn about healthy touch and get recovery coaching for trauma if they've been through prostitution and human trafficking.
Is that just in Georgia?
This organization, yeah, is in Athens. Yep.
Say it again. Divas who
Divas
win?
Who Win Freedom Center.
Amazing. Yeah. And if you want to put us in touch with them, like I would totally do stuff for them.
Awesome.
You know,
Thank you.
in general. In general.
Mhm.
Um, is there anybody else you'd like to shout out?
Also to Access Point, Georgia, harm reduction organization, boots on the ground, which I just absolutely love what they do because they go out into the streets, creating relationships with people who are in addiction and offering Hep C, HIV testing for free, coaching for free. Obviously, we do syringe exchange, clean kids education on harm reduction, safe use, fentanyl test kits, Narcan.
Awesome. And like, please stay in touch with me and let me know how we can help get the word out. Cause like we have a platform that can get the word out. So
Awesome.
I would love to help however we can help. Um, there are people in my house cleaning the house now.
Okay. Okay.
That's why I've become very uncomfortable.
Okay.
But I have this thing I wanted to do. Could we try to do something else later?
Yeah, for sure.
It was Chrissy's idea. Do you want to hear about it real quickly?
Sure.
Chrissy's like trying to help me get bigger, you know what I mean, in a bunch of ways. And she's like, so she suggested this, and I'm too stupid to have listened to her when she suggested it in the first place. But like all these questions, like about like to create clips and reels on social media.
Mm-hmm.
About, should I send you what she sent me and we'll do it later?
Yeah, for sure.
You're down to do that?
Yeah.
Do you have a light?
Yeah.
So we'll do it later. You turn on the light and maybe we could like do something with it.
Okay, sure.
Why didn't you turn on the light for this?
The lights are on. they are on. They're not just not on super bright. I have like the windows open, and
you need brighter lights and less noise over there.
Okay.
But I thought this was really cool. I think this is really, really good. And we do an event in October. We do DopeyCon. You should try to come.
When is it?
October 5th in New York.
Okay. October 5th. Okay.
But seriously, when can we set up the next thing and we could try to do this? Like, this is my new thing to try to do, is like make reels in a way that makes more sense than what I've been trying to do, which has totally not worked.
Okay. So what are you, like, you want to make it like as if?
Well, no, I mean, it'll be just like this, but we'll use it probably more. Here, I'll send it to you on Facebook. Actually, I can't. What's your email?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it's just like these questions, like give Jamie a question beforehand, so she'll have an answer ready. I don't do things like that. You know what I mean? I like it to be like super natural and like we get to know each other, like, and it creates like a flow. You know, I think that I felt like we got to know each other a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
And it was cool. Like, I thought it was really cool. I also hate doing it remotely, but I'm at a point where like you're not coming to New York and I'm not going to Georgia, so I figured we should try it.
Right.
So these are the kinds of things that Chrissy had sent me: harm reduction versus abstinence, Suboxone and Methadone myths, fucking long-term success with Suboxone and Methadone, things about that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then like, I think she got it all through AI. But I think we should try it. And you seem like you like having reels out, and we could do.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it could be good for both of us.
Yeah, for sure. I'm down.
All right, I'm gonna send that to you now. And then when could you do it?
Let's see. I mean, when do you want to set something up for? Like next Monday or something? Or do you want to do it before then?
I would like to do it. Today is not good. I would like to do it maybe Thursday. Thursday,
yeah, for sure. I get off work at 5, so.
How about next Monday morning? Next Monday at 9.
Sure, we can do that.
You can do it?
Yep.
Did I offend you in any way on this?
No, thing? Not at all. No.
All right, so we covered a lot of ground. Have you ever been on such a long and comprehensive interview as this, Jamie?
This is probably the best interview I've ever been in my whole entire life.
Don't make fun of me now, Jamie. Don't make fun of me. But I appreciate it.
No, it was super fun, super fun. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time. I know you're super busy, so really, thank you.
Next year, we have to get you at DopeyCon.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Jamie. Seriously, you really should have come. You would have gotten such a kick out of it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I bet you we can get Dr.
I would have
J.
had to be like there. I would have only been there for like 16 hours or something, and I would have had to like leave right away. So.
Well, maybe next year. If you ever need anything from me, please just let me know.
I will.
All right. Thank you, Jamie.
I will use you for whatever I can. Thank you for the permission.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Appreciate it.
All right.
I'll talk to you later.
We'll
try to do something else. I want to try to do reels.
Well, let's do it. Let's schedule it or text me or something.
I will. I will schedule it and text you.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
Thanks.